Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be talking about Need for Speed Heat. Now, I'll be honest, and if you've watched my videos for a while, you will probably be aware. I've not been a fan of the modern Need for Speed games. I loved the classic ones, of course, but 2015 was a steaming pile of garbage. Payback could be fun, but was ruined by an utterly atrocious upgrade system, and I played a demo for Heat at Gamescom, and I was far from convinced. But I went into the game with an open mind and a half hope that it might be okay. You might be able to get some fun out of it. I had some fun with Payback at the end of the day, even though it was far from perfect. So yeah, I was hoping. And I have to say, I've been surprised. I have been surprised. This is a lot better, an awful lot better than the demo that I played. I've been having quite a lot of fun with this one. I'm having a lot more fun than I expected. The I'll do the short version of the review now because it'll probably be quite a long video. The short version is surprising amount of fun, some iffy stuff. Most of it could be fixed relatively easily. A lot more interesting events in here than I expected. Decent customization. Police are irritating as hell. The early game is probably the worst part. The early game of this is probably the worst part. The further you get in, the more fun the game becomes, but it is a little bit of a slog getting through the start, and it might turn some people off before the game really gets going. Okay, that's the short version. That's the short version of everything. Let's start with the handling physics, shall we, as we're prattling around with a Corvette. The handling is actually not bad. The handling is not bad at all on here. Yes, it's arcadey. Of course it is, it's bloody Need for Speed. It's going to be an arcadey handling system if you're expecting... Well, I don't know why you'd be expecting anything other than that. But it's a good kind of arcadey. Now, they replaced... Well, I say they replaced. They made the deal of saying, it's not tap brake to drift. No, it's tap accelerator to drift. A different button is still the same handling system at the end of the day. But I'm not going to complain about that. You know, we've had tap brake to drift in many arcade races before, and that's not a bad thing, and thankfully you can put it back. I actually go to the live tuning, so you can adjust the car on the fly. I actually have put it back to tap brake to drift. I much prefer it because the tap accelerator feels a little weird, just sort of lifting off and going on throttle again and the car going sideways. It will still drift like that, by the way, if you even have it set to tap brake. I don't like that because if I'm trying to take a corner, normally you're going to lift off the throttle a little bit to get the car turned in and then get back on the throttle and it will just snap sideways. So I prefer the predictability of a tap brake to drift system. That might just be me. Maybe you'll like the new system. It's up to you. But you can experiment with both. I still leave it as a tap brake. Regardless, you know, this won't be to everyone's liking. I fully understand that. But as an arcade racer, it's actually pretty good. You can still drive the cars fairly normally as well if you want. There's always going to be a little bit of sliding around, but you can drive the cars relatively normally. Often you can find a bit of speed if you stop sliding the cars around in places that the AI might be. That can make for some fun. And there are some very interesting little game modes, which we will cover in a little bit, that will almost require you to drive the cars differently. There's a lot of... I mean, as you can see, I'm doing here. I'm just prattling around trying to get some billboards at the moment. There's a lot of stuff to do. There's a lot of stuff to unlock. There's a lot of game mode. I say it's not game modes. There's a lot of events. There's a lot of different sort of challenges, and there's a lot of collectibles. God, there are a lot of bloody collectibles. Oh, got it just with the wing. Fantastic. Yeah, billboards to smash, speed cameras to set off, drift zones to go through, jumps to complete. It'll keep you going for a while, and you complete all of the jumps at 3-star, or all of the different sections at 3 stars, and you'll get various special cars along the way. So it'll keep you busy. That is for sure. I mean, I'm a good probably 10 hours into the game, if not a bit more, and I'm still nowhere near even close to getting everything. Let's go do a race. Let's go do a race, because one of the important things, well, I say one of the important things, the AI has been poor in recent Need for Speeds, often with absurd rubber banding. Now, my Corvette, I should point out, is quite over-leveled for this particular event. Don't worry about that particularly. I would generally recommend over-level your car to crap when you can. But the AI does not rubber band as much. I think it will still a little bit. It will still rubber band a smidge, as is perhaps expected a tad in an arcade game, but it isn't the same anywhere near like previous ones. You won't have a massive lead and in 3 corners the AI have caught up. That's just not going to happen. What you do get instead is vast, weird difficulty spikes. with racing. This is why I tend to over-level my cars, because sometimes the recommended level might be, what might now, 294, I think is what. So if the recommended level may be 260, the AI will turn up with something absolutely ridiculously fast that you just can't beat. I think I did one of these where the recommended level was 240, and I turned up with this Corvette expecting to be a cakewalk, and the AI turned up with something ridiculous and just pissed off at the front of the race. And then other races you will get where everyone's slow and you just annihilate the pack, and the gaps in the field are massive. In a 3-lap race I had one time where I was lapping the cars at the back. Me and the car in second were relatively close, and we were lapping the cars at the back. There's no real consistency to it. Yeah, there's just vast differences in car performance, and we were seeing it already in this one. Look how far back the car in last is. Now, is it better than the insane rubber banding? To an extent, yes. But it's a little bit of a shame. You don't really get very close races. I have had a couple of good races with the AI, but on the most part, they've not really been all. I say they're not all been that great. It's fun enough to drive my car around here. You know, this is a fun enough handling vehicle, a fun game to drive, but I would perhaps like slightly closer races. The saving grace for this, at least, is while, yes, you get vast difficulty spikes and some races are just impossible, ridiculous, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't really hinder your progress. You'll still win decent money for coming second or third in perhaps a tough race. Some of the races where you can unlock special parts, again, you'll come second in that and you'll still win the bonus parts. So, yeah, you can kind of get away with it in as far as it doesn't make it insane. If they're trying to progress, if you have to win every race, I think it would drive you mad. But because you don't, because you can still make money and progress, etc., I'll let it slide. I mean, this race here, as I said, I was a little bit over-leveled, but you can just see the gaps we've got going on in the pack. Trying to find a car to have a close race is, but where would you be racing close? You never really know. I think I would rather this, as I said, I'd rather this than the crazy rubber banding, at least. The Corvette, I like pretty much. I think this is still my time trial. I think this is still set up as a time trial car, which is probably my favourite game mode. Like, the races are solid, they're decent enough circuits, and there's a lot of different tracks to be going on. Some are very tight, very technical, some are much faster. There's a mixture of circuit races and point-to-point stuff. The barriers around here are quite annoying. We'll get to some. There's some interesting collision physics on here that's worth noting. It doesn't really make much difference to the game. Well, the barriers are the only thing you hit that really slows you down, other than cars. The barriers will really screw with your race. Everything else pings around like it's made of helium. It's a bit silly. I mean, if we can find like various props, you can just launch bits of debris around. Now that makes no difference to the game, and I'm certainly not going to. I'm not going to complain about it as such. It looks silly. It makes for a very funny video. A very funny time for me anyway. I spent quite a while booping bits of scenery to see what would happen. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's not exactly a big problem. I'm kind of curious, what level was that Jag? It'll tell us. Here we go. The Jag was 2.5. No, let's see. I think there's a car at 310 in this. It recommended. The car at 310 was a pile of garbage as well, by the looks of it. I don't know. I said the difficulty spike on those is a bit weird. Can't do much about that. It is what it is. Some races will be more entertaining than others. A lot will be just straightforward. You just kind of run around on your own. But there isn't ridiculous AI rubber banding. Not in races. The police are another story, but we'll get to them. That's going to be a big section. Now, as I said, my favourite game mode is the time trials. These are brilliant. These are absolutely fantastic. Where is my favourite one? Which one? Is it down? Is it the one down here? Now, is it that one, or is it this one? Is there one over there? I think it's that one down here. Now, the time trials are very reminiscent of, I say very reminiscent of autocross. I've been a massive fan of autocross since it first started doing it in Forza Motorsport, whichever one it was, 3, 4, 5? I don't know. Anyway, basically it's all about going through gates on a circuit. Like the gates would be off the normal racing line. You have to weave at relatively low speeds, but it's kind of all handling. I've ran a series on it for a long time on Forza 6. I love autocross. I love the crazy, demanding technical circuits. They're very much my sort of thing, and this has that. I'm just going to make sure my car is all set up for it. Is as good as this is the live tuning thing, so you can change how the car behaves on the fly, which is what everything grip. Very, very fast steering, lots of grip, and we will go into the time trial event. Now this is where I thought the handling system might come undone with an event like this, but surprisingly it works pretty well, because this is all about grip. It can occasionally get the better of you. At sometimes the cars can be a little bit slow to respond, and that's the problem. Yeah, sometimes the cars can be a little teensy bit too slow to respond to what you're asking them to do, and on this sort of an event, that is problematic. Sometimes you can kind of end up getting the cars... The Volvo jumped a little too far. You can get things just a little bit wonky with this, especially through these sort of sections. I don't know what the Corvette's like, actually, because I've not taken it through here. Did this in a... I can't even remember what I ran. But yeah, like, this is really, really technical little stuff, and I love it. This is not what I expected to see from Need for Speed at all. And it's great that it is a thing that we have to deal with. I'm actually driving a terrible run. I'm not sure commentating over this one was the best idea. Oh, come on, you bugger. Little bit of handbrake perhaps through there. Might not go amiss. The car I'm racing up against, okay, we saw it smack into the wall, is much higher rating than mine, whatever. I can't remember what the rating system's called in this one. If I call it PI, that's just because I'm so used to Forza, I apologise. Oh, there we go. We got a little bit of a slide through there. Now, don't go crazy on the jump here. In fact, you don't even want to go crazy because you want to get the car down for the corner. There we go. There's a gear in there somewhere. Yeah, this is cool. Come on, fight through here. I guess I can technically cheat that a little bit. Probably shouldn't. But we've knocked the barrier out the first time through, so why not continue? Again, knock the barrier out a little bit down there. Oh, around the hairpin. Next hairpin we go. Come on, Corvette. We can do this. Even if we're a little bit wide through all of this section. Yeah, I can spend a lot of time. Just building cars. For this, don't snap wide on me there, you bugger. Because this is my sort of driving. As there is something probably for everybody in here in terms of game modes. Oh, we're just going to beat the time we were going for. Get a decent payout as well for doing these. Money is not, again, late game money is not really too bad. Hey, we got an underdog bonus. Does that give us some more money? I don't know. Probably not. But and 30 grand for that. Almost threw it away at the end. I got a bit too carried away. But yeah, the handling works for that. I'd say it takes a little bit getting used to it. It's going to probably be different to something you've driven before, and at times a little sluggish to respond. But on the most part, more than acceptable. The drifting is where things actually fall apart the most. The drifting is not great. Now, I have a car. So this is my normal circuit car. I'm going to use this for any of the circuit racing. Now, I have a specific car for drift events, so we're going to go change car. Naturally, I had to use a muscle car, because why not? We have a Challenger that I've built up for the drift events. Now, this is, if I click in one of the stick, there we go. This has got 700 horsepower. Okay, bear in mind, it's got 700 horsepower. It's got drift suspension, a diff. We'll get to the customization in a minute, but drift suspension, drift diff, tyres specific for drifting. And it doesn't really very well. I feel like in the racing and even in the time trials, the handling system at times may not quite respond how you want it to, how you were planning on doing it, but it all seems to work just about well enough. And then we go to the drifting, and a part of it will have no doubt be me not being experienced enough. I have no doubt I'm not a drifter, never have been, never will be. However, on other games, I will be able to at least get away with drifting. Here, it just doesn't really, even with a 700 horsepower car, it feels like whenever you try and counter steer to maintain a slide anywhere, the cars just grip up. Even with all the drift stuff, it's just, I don't know, it just always feels like it's finding grip, which leads us to do this really silly wiggle down the road. And 700 horsepower is not enough to really slide the car in third gear. It's just always wanting to find grip. Now, oh god, like there. As soon as you counter steer, it's just immediately we're finding grip, we're straightening up, so we just wiggle. We wiggle and we score points. Now I can get this through drift events, it's just not pretty. I can get it through drift events by wiggling and scoring enough points. Oh, here we just didn't even want to go. There's nope. We're in third gear there in a 700 horsepower muscle car, flat out and nothing. It didn't want to even start initiating any sort of wheel spin. And then here you would hope that maybe nope. It's just I don't know. The physics does not feel quite right here. Doesn't feel quite right here, and it's less fun. Now, if you can make this work for you, fantastic. If you have fun with the drifting events, fantastic. They aren't a main part of this, much like if maybe you won't like the time trial events, and that's fair enough. It's a different kind of driving. You don't really have to spend much time doing these if you don't want to. You can probably go through most of the game never really touching these. And I will probably continue to do that, or I will very ugly make my way through them by sliding the car around badly and wiggling between sections. You know, there is that. Maybe at some point I'll figure out how the game actually wants you to drift here. I don't know, but yeah, I'm less than sold on the drifting. Oh, that's how we kind of got it going, but it just feels like it's just really running out of power. And third gear wouldn't work there because it's buzzing the limiter. I don't think I can actually change ratios of the gearbox if I wanted to. Ugh. Yeah, it's almost like I think you have to keep... That might be a way to make it work. I don't know why that's the way to make it work, but I've crashed now, but I might have just figured out something while doing this. It's like you always have to spam... So you tap the brake, drift it, and then once it starts sliding, you just have to like continually tap the throttle, and that seems to work better than anything else I've found working. Yeah, this is the weakest bit for the handling model, the drifting events. Thankfully, not the main thrust of the game, and certainly for me, not where I'm going to spend most of my time. If you can make it work for you, great. I don't particularly enjoy that. It's a little fiddly. It will probably drive you mad for a while, but there we go. I don't know if we win any money, because we've already got an okay amount of money. As I said, money is thrown at you quite readily here, which is relatively nice. Cars aren't too expensive, upgrades aren't too crazy, so you can kind of play around with a lot of stuff, and that's good in a game that prides itself on customization. Speaking of customization, it's probably time to go and have a look at that, so let us go fast travel our way back to the garage, because there is plenty of customization. Is it the best game in the world for customization? No, Strictly All Racing Redline will win that day in, day out, but this is pretty good. I don't have any massive complaints about it. First of all, gone are the rubbish performance cards that we had before. It's now a more straightforward engine upgrade shop or car upgrade shop. So you can put on turbos, you can put on superchargers, you buy parts as you would expect. See, it's a fun thing to note. While you're in this menu, you can turn on the car and rev it up. This is the car naturally aspirated, what it would sound like if it was naturally aspirated. You will hear the difference when you put a turbo on it, for example. Now, that's only a little thing, but it's kind of fun. Sadly, I have a supercharger. You don't really get any supercharger whine. Apparently, there are some cars that do. I haven't come across one yet. But yeah, I like that as a little detail. You know, you level up, you unlock more parts, you can make your car more powerful. Fairly straightforward, fairly simple. Now, engine swaps are not simple, and I love this. I haven't got a lot of these fun things unlocked as of yet, but there are crazy amount of engine swaps. Most cars have 5 or 6 engines that can be put into them, and a lot of them are very weird. 4.9 litre flat 12, is that what? Ferrari Testarossa engine, I think? In a Challenger. 6.4 litre V8, 4.5 litre V8. I mean, there's a lot of different sort of capacity V8s. 5.2 litre V12, 3.5 V6, I think that would be GTR engine in there. V10s, V8s, V12s. You get forged engines that are like just crazy powerful output versions. You know, they've got a potential horsepower thing there, you know, talking 1,500 horsepower from some of these engines. So, yeah, there are some brilliantly mad engine swaps for the cars. Now I'm going to go swap vehicles back to my... I don't know what all cars get engine-wise. I've only seen a few cars here. But lots of cars get lots and lots of different engines, and that's brilliant. Oh, I keep going to customize rather than performance. So this is the beginning car I had. So we have 2.3 litre i6. We can have another 2.3 i6. We can have a rotary. There we go. You can get a rotary in it. You can get the BMW i8's engine, flat 6s, V6s, all sorts of funky engines. Now, not every engine goes in every car. You're not going to get the flat 12 in this, for example, but that's fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. I love that there are so many different engine swaps, and it means you can get just about any car to be pretty ridiculously fast. That is very, very nice indeed. The car list is actually pretty good as well. About 130 cars, varying all sorts of vehicles. And this is just people from the FailRace crew at the moment we've got in the background. But, you know, you've got your high-end cars, you've got Evos in there, the i8 is in here, S5, a couple of S5s actually apparently here. There's trucks, there's some off-road. I haven't really got to the off-road stuff yet, but there is some off-road racing, some off-road vehicles. You've got plenty of your Japanese cars to modify like crazy. Don't want to do that, actually. I just want to go back to there. Plenty of vehicles to choose from, and customization-wise, it's similar if you've played previous modern Need for Speed games. You know, you go around, select the various bits of the car, and you change those. Now, different vehicles will have different levels of customization. The M3 here, for example, is pretty decent. There's normally a couple of bits in each section. This one, I've put all the DTM parts on, and it doesn't really want me to put other parts on with the DTM, which is kind of fair enough. But yeah, you can get lots of different bits and pieces. Now, one of the nice features with this one is the game will let you know how likely or how much customization you can do to a car before you buy it. So ignore these are like deluxe edition specials, but the rating at the bottom, there's a customization rating. The higher out of 10 it is, the more bits you're going to be able to do to the car. So the Challenger only has a couple of options for each kind of section, like bumper and side skirts, etc. So that gets a 6 out of 10, whereas that's got a few more, that gets 7. I think the BMW, and I mean the BMW I can't see, I think it's about 8 or 9 out of 10 or something. You know, yes, some cars like the Volvo 242, which is back in here, doesn't have very many options. The Aston Martin DB5 has a 10 out of 10 for customization, which makes me wonder what the hell you can do to that. I haven't seen yet, but yeah, it's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good in terms of customization. Fix a lot of the complaints I had about Payback. Most of the cars have some fun options for stuff you can do. That's great. Oh, one more thing, actually, before I go into there, I was just going to mention, in the customization, you can paint the cars, you have the whole vinyl editor, you get special effects, you can get some air suspension on the car if you want, nitro colours, tyre smoke, etc. You can change the stance of the car, so you can, this one here is already down on the floor, but if you want to have a silly broken cambered car, you can. Not for me personally, but there is that option. You can also play around with the exhaust sound, which is quite fun. So if we just set this all back to the... We'll just go for the middle. So that's the basic thing. And then if you turn that up, for example... Again, it's a small feature, but it's a fun thing to play around with. So you can get the car sounding kind of how you want. At the end of the day, you know, you can do a lot with custom, you know, identical engines can make very different sounds depending on how the exhaust is. It makes sense that you'd be able to tweak the exhaust sounds a little bit. And at the end of the day, it's a game. It's a bit of fun. If you want to have a really aggressive, nasty sounding M3, go for it. You can. So that is all very fun. Now we're gonna well, you know what, let's get back in the Corvette. Sure, why not? The way the game is structured, that's what we're going to talk about next. The game is structured in quite an interesting way. I like it. I do like the way it works. It's not crazy different, but it is something a little bit different. So, we've been playing around in daytime. Okay, in daytime you have plenty of official events, this stuff, where there's no traffic on the roads, you're just racing, you're earning money. However, you don't earn XP during the day, you can only earn XP at night. So, through the day, you make some money. At night, you level up to unlock more cars and more parts for your vehicle. But at night, you are racing, basically street racing. There are traffic cars on the roads, and there's a chance of getting some police interference. Police is where things start going wrong. This is a Need for Speed game where certainly for the opening part, it is more fun without the police. Now, at the stage I am at, the police are quite interesting. The police cars are brutal. The police cars are utterly brutal and utterly unforgiving when you are at... Well, they're utterly unforgiving regardless, but at lower levels it is horrendous. My Corvette is very fast. Well, very fast. Relatively fast, shall we say. And this thing will give the police trouble when you're on the higher heat levels. The 3, 4... I think it goes up to 5, if I remember rightly. The higher the heat level when you kind of end the night, the sort of bigger multiplier you get on your XP, so it's kind of a risk versus reward. Do you do more races, get more police after you, run the risk of getting caught and the police that take quite a lot of money away from you, and so on, but you could level up faster. I quite like the risk versus reward whole aspect of things. That's quite good fun. The problem is for the first few nights, or the first early in the game, you'll be able to get up to high heat levels with a very slow car. This thing against, well, this thing, the heat level 4 cars it was going up against a little while ago. I should have some footage hopefully around about now. This thing got murdered by them in a straight line. I could play silly buggers around some corners and eventually got rid of the Corvettes, but this thing, I mean, the police cars are insanely strong. They're insanely strong and insanely fast. There is no catch-up for the AI in races, or minimal catch-up for AIs in races, but god damn do the police have a rocket ship when it needs to try and catch up to you. Like, you can duck around a corner, or you can have a police car go ahead of you, you handbrake around a corner at the very last second and just make it, and this police car does a U-turn, shoots itself back behind you within about 10 seconds of you having made that corner. They're crazy. And the only way I've tended to really get away is when they've goofed. They've crashed into something. So you kind of run your luck a little bit on that one. But that's when I've got a fast car. When you're starting the game out, you have that M3, for example, that, you know, is a beginning car. It's not going to be very quick. And that goes up against heat level 3. And it can do that really quickly. In a stream when I was playing this game, I got to heat level 3 in about 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes, with the beginning car. There needs to be some slight balancing on that. There needs to be some slight tweaking with how quickly those really early cars can end up getting some insane difficulty level basically going on. Because that's not fun. It means that you don't want to play, you don't want police interference, you don't want to be, I didn't drive at night, I didn't really drive much at the night for a while, just because I couldn't be bothered, and it wasn't fun to drive there. Police chases themselves, while, yes, when you have a car that is well enough balanced against them, they're fun because they're a bit nerve-wracking, because you know you can lose a bunch of XP, you know you can lose a bunch of money. However, they aren't really all that great chases. They rely on the cars being absurdly fast and absurdly strong to make them tough, rather than clever tactics, rather than interesting stuff actually going on. I think there is roadblocks and spike strips, and the police might use kill switches. Even though they used it on me. Even up to level 4s and mid-level 4s, they never bothered. It was me against 1 or 2 Terminators, occasionally getting lucky when I could duck down an alleyway and they'd get confused. And that was that. They were just not all that much fun. I wouldn't lose, I mean, apart from the game making less sense, it wouldn't lose much to me if the police were got rid of on the most part. They need some tweaking. Now, that's not to say completely broken. As I said, there isn't, I like the element of the risk versus reward. I just wish it was more entertaining chases that you had going on. I like there is some kind of high heat level races, basically. You can get some interesting parts out where the police will really try and cause chaos for you and that sort of stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of interesting ideas. There are a lot of interesting ideas in this one, and most of them work. I have to say, a lot of them work. As I said at the start, one of the biggest Achilles heels for this game is the early game is not as fun as it is later on, and I would be potentially fearful that it might turn off people. You know, the first couple of hours, especially if you are not aware of what you're going to be going up against, the first few hours you may well just not even want to, first couple of hours, first few nights, so you might not want to continue particularly with it. I would say persevere. It does get better. It definitely does get better as time goes on. But that's yeah, I say a little bit of a problem. It's slightly less than ideal, really, doing that. The police could be fixed. The police situation isn't unfixable here. It just needs a little bit of balancing, a little bit of reworking, certainly for the early game stuff. Because, as I said, when I've got this Corvette, and now I'm going up against the higher level heat things, it's not too bad. It's interesting. I would still like them to be a little bit more. I would like the difficulty to come elsewhere, not just from Terminators. I would like it to be more intelligence, more interesting mechanics. We also don't have any pursuit breakers, chase breakers, whatever you want to call them, so you really are resorting to last-minute corners and... oh, that's a river. I don't want to go in there. Last-minute cornering and luck, hoping that the police cars crash into an AI. You can kind of ram into the police cars, but they're not really all that affected by it most of the time. The police are, again, one of the weaker aspects of the game. Not unsolvable with some tweaks here and there, but yeah, you don't have any of the you don't have any like the rhinos coming for you. That sort of interesting stuff that makes police chases it makes them different. At least I haven't seen them. Maybe if you run around at heat level 5 all night, you might start getting that stuff. But yeah, all in all, this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. This is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I'm having a lot of fun with it. You know, messing around with cars. The actual races, the cars are nice to drive in the races, even if sometimes the difficulty is a bit weird with what you're going up against. Customization is pretty good. It looks very good. I will give it that. It is a very, very pretty game. And the map is pretty good as well. Pretty interesting. You've got this sort of city area. You've got some like abandoned racetracks. You've got some country lanes to investigate. There's some wiggly road. There's a lot of stuff out here. There's a lot of different stuff crammed into this map. Yeah, it's a decent map. Oh, you've got down here, you've got like a little NASA area. There's a space shuttle or space rocket around here that I keep hoping will take off one day. Who knows if it does? Maybe. Yeah, this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It is certainly progress. It is certainly progress. It is the best modern Need for Speed by a fair margin. I'm having fun with it. I'm having quite a lot of fun with it. So, yeah, surprisingly positive. I was not expecting much from this, but I'm pleasantly surprised. There are things that will annoy people. There are things that might annoy you about the game. There might be stuff that I can forgive that you can't, and that's fair enough. It might not be quite for everybody. However, yeah, I'm having a lot more fun with this than I expected from a modern Need for Speed game. So there we go. That is going to be it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.